Few comics published by Marvel or DC are as unique as Gotham Central. In a fictional universe that spans decades of history, multiverse-ending threats, and many colorful costume characters, Gotham Central stands out by narrowing its focus on the smaller details of the world. Created by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, with art primarily provided by Michael Lark, Gotham Central switches between focusing on the night and day shifts of the major crimes unit of the Gotham City Police Department. In a world where a man dressed as a bat stalks alleyways at night and homicidal mad clowns go on regular rampages, the ordinary life of a simple cop has to be interesting. By looking at what makes Gotham Central's take on the DC Universe unique and how the Eisner Award winning arc Half a Life uses character dynamics, we will come to understand how Renee Montoya's life is forever changed. One of the things that I think was a merit of the series, and I think Ed was in particular very good at calling this out, was the echoes. That by being on the ground, it makes the glory of the DC Universe that much more glorious, said Rucka. If you spend all your time with Superman, you can forget how amazing the concept of the character is. If you're spending all your time with Wonder Woman, you can forget what it would be like to actually meet her. And having a book that kind of reminded the DC Universe not to take this for granted, I would like to think had some sort of subtle effect on the reading the other books. As a result of this ground-level mentality, many of the core characters went through substantial and thought-provoking arcs, none more so than Renee Montoya. Renee started out as the character introduced in Batman the Animated Series, with a very minor role. The comics quickly introduced her into the main DC continuity, with very little being done with her until Greg Rucka came along. During the No Man's Land storyline that ran through all of the Batman titles during 1999, Renee got an increased focus, a promotion, and the beginning of a twisted relationship with Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. All this development for the character, spearheaded by Greg Rucka, would come to a head when she was made one of the core members of the cast of Gotham Central. Using the building blocks Rucka had expertly established, from Renee being a second-generation immigrant from the Dominican Republic, her family being Catholic, and Two-Face being obsessed with her, he quickly brings Renee's life tumbling down like dominoes. Marty Lipari, a man that Renee had arrested but had gotten away with his crime, snaps photos of Renee out with her girlfriend Daria. When Lipari is mysteriously murdered with Renee's backup service weapon, and the pictures he took find their way out to the public, including Renee's staunchly Catholic family, Renee finds herself in a pit she cannot crawl out of. Things spiral out of control and Renee slowly begins to crack under the pressure. Renee's normal biting sense of humor is replaced with passive-aggressive remarks and a constant need to egg people on. She's angry. At herself, at her family, at Lipari, at everyone, and she needs to vent that anger. With her rather public outing, the captain of the MCU, Maggie Sawyer, herself an openly gay woman, attempts to speak to Renee about the situation. Renee won't have any of it. She fires back at Maggie, not even listening to what she has to say. "You've been where I am? Are you sure? Because somehow, I don't think you have. I just have a hard time picturing that. I have a hard time picturing you as Latina, for instance. I have a hard time picturing your parents as immigrants from the Dominican Republic, who go to Mass every Sunday. And I don't really see you having to explain every time you see them why they don't have grandchildren yet, or why it is that you're going to hell when you die. This isn't Metropolis, Captain. Not just because our guy works at night. This isn't the city of tomorrow, it's not San Francisco, it's not New York, it's Gotham. If you want to see what that means, just check out your squad room, so you'll forgive me if I ask you to keep your advice to yourself." While Renee is well within her right to fire back at Maggie, she took it too far. Yes, Maggie isn't completely in her shoes. She isn't a woman of color, she did live in a far better place before moving to Gotham, but she did have to deal with coming out and learning to accept that. Maggie's response is, "It's a one-way door, detective. Once the closet is open, it doesn't shut again. What you do next, you get to live with it for the rest of your life." Renee is so full of emotion, she is reacting on impulse to everything, blowing up with the shortest fuse, that she isn't thinking of the consequences of her actions. Maggie is right. Renee needs to be looking at the bigger picture. The situation is out of her control, and Renee can't accept that. Renee's downward spiral only gets worse as her family begins to react. Her brother Benny, who has known that she was gay for years, attempts to cover for Renee. He tells their parents it was some attempt to get back at Renee by someone she put in jail. But Benny, despite being kind enough to cover for his sister, is still not accepting who Renee really is. Tries to pass the buck and say that Renee being gay is hurting their family. That their parents shouldn't have to suffer for something that he believes Renee chooses to be. Conversation only gets more heated as Renee begins to drink heavily to deal with the familiar pressure being put on her, and even switches to speaking in Spanish. Maybe it's not about them. And not everything is about you. Take another look at the picture, Benny, then tell me who this is about. You made your choice, Renee, made a decision, and if that's what works for you, great. But there's no reason Mom and Pop have to suffer for it. Maybe it wasn't a choice, Ben. Maybe, just maybe, I never had to say in the matter, and maybe I'm glad. While her personal life begins to fracture, her professional life takes a turn for the worse. In addition to the gun that killed Lipari being proven to be Renee's, part of Lipari's stash of heroin is found in Renee's apartment. Arrested and put on trial, Renee is treated no better than the criminal she works to put away. Outed, disgraced, and criminalized, Renee's entire way of life is upended and destroyed, leaving her with nothing. As her detective partner, Crispus Allen, attempts to find a way to get Renee free of charges, Harvey springs the next part of his plan, the acquisition of Renee. Now that Renee quite literally has no one to turn to and nowhere to go, Harvey makes himself available to her for support. His ever-increasingly creepy behavior towards her takes the next step, as he attempts to woo her into living out the rest of her life happily ever after with him. When asked about the concept of the Harvey and Renee relationship, Rucka said this: "If everybody in the DC universe has a special ability or superpower, Renee's ability was she could get both Harvey and Two-Face to listen to her. That was always the way I approached it. And pretty much when I finished 2 down, I knew, well, if she can reach both of them, she's the one thing both of them can agree on. They like her, and if they both like her, that makes sense that they're both going to fall for her. And if they both fall for her, there's a story where that creates a problem because she doesn't go that way." Both Harvey Dent and Two-Face are so blinded by their obsession with Renee that they refuse to see the thing that is in front of their very eyes. When Renee confronts him, it makes it very clear she will never have feelings for him, not only because she is gay, but also because of the horrible things he does. Two-Face seems unfazed by what she said. His reply is simply, "I don't see what that has to do with us." Harvey mistook the kindness Renee showed him, the pity she took upon him, as love. He saw a connection between them that didn't exist. They both lived dual lives. Two-Face and Harvey are 2 distinct yet similar personalities, and Renee lived a life in which she pretended to be straight in order to fit in, while secretly dating Daria. But that does not make them the same. They do not have the same baggage, nor do they even share the same morality. Renee's rejection of Two-Face only makes him more volatile and dangerous. Like the classic stalker or abuser, it isn't his fault, it's hers. If the only way to have her is to force her, then so be it. When Batman inevitably intervenes in the situation, he only perpetuates a cycle of violence. Renee and Two-Face were struggling for a gun. One way or the other, one of them was going to die. As Batman sees it, that is not acceptable. But Renee's a cop. She isn't some rich playboy that at night goes around dressed as a bat to play hero. She knows the very real reality that is the Gotham judicial system. Two-Face will be out very quickly. This will only start all over again. While she is right, she is also being pushed further down the dreadful hole, as she is now more than willing to kill Two-Face, the man she once pitied. Batman isn't portrayed as the dark avenging hero of the night like he commonly is in comics. Instead, Batman is portrayed as an all-knowing force that passes judgment on people's lives like they are nothing more to him than ants. The point is, he's not there, and when he does show up, it's a big damn deal. When he shows up, it's Moses coming down from the mountain, and it fucks everything up, said Rucka. And one of the things that makes Gotham Central work, in my opinion, and I maintain this, is there's very little new you can say about Batman. There's very little. We know how he's going to react in almost every situation. We've seen him over and over again. Batman becomes really interesting to me when you look at him from the outside. Michael Lark's art holds this book together, making you feel every blow Renee receives. Every panel feels almost claustrophobic in the way it's composed, adding to the sense of tension. The panels are even slanted and jagged to delineate the personalities of Harvey Dent and Two-Face. Lark is good at many things due to his realistic but sketchy style, but the most important thing is making you feel via visuals what the characters are feeling. Lee Louthridge's colors accentuate the art, conveying the feelings of the characters. When Renee is with Daria in a lesbian bar, the colors are warm, insinuating that Renee is comfortable. But when it transitions to outside, it's dark and foreboding, implying that being out with her sexuality is dangerous. The contrast between warm and dark colors through half a life help convey the slow decline of Renee's mentality and how the world is reacting to it. When all is said and done, Renee is cleared of the charges and Two-Face is put away. But the closet door once opened cannot be closed again. Renee is out, whether she wants to be or not. The final pages of Have a Life see Renee, supported by Daria, go to talk to her parents and admit her sexuality. Cleverly, we are not shown the conversation, only its aftermath. Harvey didn't succeed in getting the woman he pined for, but his plan did succeed in one aspect. The life Renee had before this story is gone, and she's going to have to make a new one as she recovers. Her parents reject her, and we can't help but cry along with her as she breaks down in Daria's arms. Even though Renee won the day, she's still lost, and life must go on. As Gotham Central continues, Renee will continue down her path towards mental breakdown. She will begin to crawl into a bottle of alcohol to drown her sorrows. The violence of her drop will become her only outlet for her emotions, to the point that she begins to relish in beating people into a bloody pulp, and she will begin to sleep around just to feel something other than anger. Renee is in a hole, and it's a hole that she only makes deeper with her ever-increasingly reckless actions. The question is, what will be able to pull her out of this pit of depression, and will she even be the same Renee when she climbs out?